Welcome. You've just stepped into a quiet, haunted space meant only for those who dare to stay. This is True Horror Story, and tonight we're taking a journey down roads you might never drive alone again. Our theme for tonight is night drives, dark highways, empty streets, and the strange, unseen things that follow when no one else is around. In these stories, you'll meet shadows that move in the corners of your mirrors, figures that vanish when you blink, and encounters so unsettling they linger long after the engine dies. These aren't just tales of ghosts or legends. These are true stories told by those who were behind the wheel when everything went wrong. I should warn you, these stories are different. They don't end neatly. They stay with you. They creep into your thoughts and make you question every reflection in your car's rearview mirror. Most people watch videos like this, but forget to subscribe. Don't be that person tonight. Now I want to ask you, what time is it where you are? And where are you watching from? Tell me in the comments below and see if someone else is driving these roads too. And with that, you might want to leave a light on. Let's begin. The rain was so heavy I could barely see 5 feet ahead. The wipers kept screeching across the windshield, doing almost nothing to clear the blur. My phone had no signal, and the GPS had been frozen for the past 20 minutes. I should have pulled over hours ago, but the last gas station I passed had a flickering sign that said, "Closed for renovation." And there wasn't another for miles. That's when I saw her. She was standing on the side of Route 47, barefoot in the pouring rain. Her white dress clung to her like wet paper, and her head hung low, her dark hair plastered across her face. I thought maybe she'd been in a car accident, or maybe she was lost. My first instinct was to drive past, but she lifted her head just as I was about to, and she looked right at me. Her eyes were wide, like she'd been crying for hours. The expression on her face wasn't fear, though. It was confusion, like she didn't understand where she was. Or when she was, I slowed down. My hands were shaking on the steering wheel. The rain sounded like it was drilling into the roof of my car. "Hey!" I called out through the open window, my voice barely cutting through the downpour. "Are you okay? You need help?" She didn't move. Didn't even blink. I put the car in park and got out, the wind slamming the door against my leg. My boots hit the flooded gravel. "Miss? Are you—" She was gone, just like that. The shoulder was empty. No footprints, no sound, just the sound of rain slapping the road. I stood there, my clothes soaked through in seconds, turning in circles. There was nowhere she could have gone. It was open highway surrounded by fields. No houses, no trees, no ditch. Then, from the car, my radio crackled. At first, it was just static. But then, faintly, under the hiss, I heard a voice. A woman's voice whispering. It said my name. I froze. I hadn't told anyone I was on this road tonight. My hands were trembling as I got back in the car, slamming the door shut, locking it out of reflex. I turned the radio off, but it stayed on. That same whispering voice, like someone breathing against the speaker. "Why did you leave me?" I turned the key in the ignition. The car wouldn't start. The headlights flickered once, then went out completely, leaving me in total darkness. The rain against the glass sounded heavier now, closer somehow, like fingers drumming. I pulled out my phone again, no signal. Just a gray SOS symbol in the corner. That's when I saw movement in the rearview mirror. A white blur in the back seat. I whipped around, my heart slamming against my ribs. The back seat was empty, but the air, it smelled different, damp, like wet earth, like something that had been buried. I didn't even breathe for a few seconds. Then I reached for the door handle to step out again, but I stopped when I saw it. A handprint, a small, muddy handprint smeared across the inside of the back window. I wiped the inside of the window, hoping I was imagining it, but the muddy handprint didn't smear. It stayed, like it was under the glass. My pulse was hammering in my throat. I turned the key again and again, but the car refused to start. The dashboard lights flickered weakly, then died altogether. The only light came from the occasional flash of lightning, white bursts that illuminated the empty road and the rain-slicked fields stretching into nothing. I sat there, gripping the steering wheel, trying to steady my breathing. "It's fine," I whispered to myself. "It's just a breakdown. Nothing weird." But something was weird, because when the next flash came, I saw something standing on the road about 30 feet ahead. A shape, tall, motionless, facing me. I blinked. It was gone. That was it. I grabbed my phone and flashlight from the glove compartment and climbed out into the storm. My boots sank into the mud as I popped the hood. The smell of wet asphalt mixed with something sharp and metallic like rust or blood. I leaned under the hood and froze. Every wire inside was cut, not torn, cleanly sliced. Like someone had taken their time. My flashlight flickered, then went out completely. I tapped it hard against my palm, but it wouldn't come back on. The wind howled through the fields, carrying a faint sound, something between a sob and a laugh. Then I heard footsteps, soft, wet, uneven, coming up behind me. I spun around, shining my useless flashlight into the darkness. "Hello, who's there?" No answer, just the rain. I started backing toward the car, my heart in my throat. When I reached the door handle, I saw her again, reflected faintly in the side mirror. She was standing right behind me. I turned, and she was gone. I slammed the door shut and locked it, my breath fogging up the glass. The radio suddenly came alive again, spitting static so loud it made me flinch. Then, through the distortion came that same whispering voice, "Don't leave me again." Lightning flashed, and this time I saw her clearly, sitting on the hood of my car. Her hair hung in dripping strands, her head tilted slightly as she stared straight through the windshield. The rain rolled down her face, but her skin didn't move. It was pale and tight like wax. I blinked once, twice, then she was gone. I shoved the key into the ignition one more time. Miraculously, the engine roared to life. The headlights came on, cutting through the rain. I didn't even look back. I just slammed the car into drive and tore down Route 47 as fast as I could. The wipers beat frantically, my tires hissing over the wet asphalt. The speedometer climbed 60, 70. My hands were shaking so bad I could barely keep the car straight. But something was wrong. No matter how far I drove, I kept passing the same sign. Route 47, county line 12 miles. Then 10 minutes later, the same sign again. Same bullet hole in the corner. Same rust streaks down the post. I tried to turn around, but the road was too narrow. My GPS suddenly flickered to life, the screen glowing blue. It was rerouting. But instead of the usual voice saying, "Recalculating," it said something else, in a woman's voice. "Come back." "You left me here." I dropped the phone onto the seat, my heart pounding. The GPS screen glitched, the map twisting into a looping figure 8, an endless road. Then my headlights flickered, and I saw something up ahead. A figure, standing in the middle of the lane, facing me, barefoot, white dress. I hit the brakes and skidded sideways, stopping just a few feet away from her. She was staring at me, lips slightly parted, eyes glassy and dark. The rain hit her so hard it should have knocked her hair loose, but it didn't move at all. She lifted her arm slowly, pointing down the road behind me. I looked in the mirror. A second figure was standing there, another woman. Same dress, same soaked hair, same face. Both of them were smiling now. For a few seconds I couldn't move. Both of them, identical, unmoving, soaked to the bone, stood at opposite ends of the road facing me. Their white dresses glowed faintly in the headlights, the rain pouring through them like mist. My brain screamed drive, but my hands wouldn't obey. Every nerve in my body felt locked in place. Then, as if they'd rehearsed it, both women tilted their heads slowly to the same angle. The sound that followed wasn't human. It was like wind forcing through hollow wood. A long sigh that somehow carried over the roar of the storm. That broke me. I slammed the car into reverse, spinning the tires on the slick pavement. I didn't even check the mirrors, I just floored it backward, the rain hammering the roof like gunfire. When I turned the car around and sped in the opposite direction, I thought I was finally getting away. But after a few minutes, my headlights caught that same damn road sign again. Route 47, county line 12 miles. It felt like being swallowed by a loop. Every time I tried to turn off the road, the path curved back into the same stretch. I passed a half-crushed road cone, a broken mile marker, and what looked like the remains of a small shrine. Flowers, candles, and a framed photo half buried in mud. Something about that photo made me slow down. I got out of the car, the air freezing against my wet clothes. My flashlight flickered back to life, weak but enough to see. I brushed the mud from the picture frame. It was a girl, 17, maybe 18, smiling in front of a car, same brown hair, same white dress. The caption below the photo read, "In loving memory of Anna Lee, 1999. The date hit me like a punch. That was 25 years ago. My breath turned to mist. I scanned the roadside again and noticed something else behind the shrine. Twisted metal almost hidden by weeds and vines. I stepped closer, my boots sinking into the mud. It was the remains of a car, rusted, crumpled, and half buried in the embankment. The windshield was shattered inward, and through the broken glass I could see a faint outline on the driver's seat. Something pale, something human-shaped. The air around me felt heavier, like the atmosphere itself was watching. I crouched, shining my light inside. A skeleton sat behind the wheel. The bones were brittle, coated in moss. The skull tilted as if frozen mid-impact. And on the passenger seat, soaked and half-faded from time, was a purse. Inside it was a driver's license. Anna Lee. I stumbled backward, nearly slipping in the mud. My heart pounded so hard I could hear it echo in my ears. I turned to run back to my car, but stopped dead. The road was gone. All I could see behind me was an endless field of tall grass swaying in the wind. No car, no highway, just open land and the faint hum of rain hitting earth. I turned back toward the wreck, but it was gone too. Just like that. My flashlight died again. I stood in complete darkness, the sound of my own breathing filling my head. I started walking, hands out, trying to find the road again. But the ground beneath me felt wrong, uneven, soft in places, almost like stepping on soaked fabric. Then the whispering began. It came from all around me, floating through the rain like smoke. A woman's voice, soft but clear.
"Why didn't you stop?"
"I did," I whispered, my voice shaking.
"I did stop."
"Too late," she said. "You left me here." Something brushed past my arm, cold and wet. I spun around, but there was nothing. I started running, heart hammering, mud splashing up my legs. In the distance, faint headlights appeared through the fog. Relief flooded through me. I wasn't alone. I waved both arms, shouting, "Hey, over here!" The car slowed as it approached. For a moment, I thought I was saved, but as it got closer, I recognized the shape of the vehicle. The cracked front bumper, the dent on the left door. It was my car, and I was in it. Through the windshield, I saw myself, hands gripping the wheel, face pale and terrified. My doppelganger looked right at me, and behind him in the back seat sat the girl in white, lightning-struck, blinding white. I threw my arms over my eyes. When the flash faded, everything was gone again. No car, no lights, just the rain, the wind, and that whisper still echoing softly in my ear. "Drive carefully this time." I blinked, and I was back in the driver's seat. The car engine hummed quietly, headlights cutting through the downpour. My hands were on the wheel, and the road stretched ahead like nothing had happened. Except for one thing. The passenger seat was wet. I didn't remember starting the car. I didn't remember getting back inside. But I was driving again, down Route 47, rain hammering the windshield like before. Everything looked normal. Almost too normal. The wipers moved perfectly, the engine purred, and the GPS said I was 12 miles from the county line. Exactly where I'd started. I swallowed hard, keeping my eyes locked on the road. "It's just a dream," I whispered. "You hit your head or something. You're fine." But then I glanced at the passenger seat. It was soaked through. Rainwater pooled in the seams, dripping slowly onto the floor mats. And resting there beside the puddle was a single white ribbon, the same one I'd seen in Anna's photograph. My breath hitched. I reached out, hesitant, and picked it up. It was cold, so cold it burned my fingertips. When I let go, it didn't fall. It floated, twisting lazily in the air before dropping to the seat again. A low hum filled the car. The radio came alive on its own, the dial flickering between stations until it landed on static. Then softly, like a whisper behind the noise, came her voice. "Do you remember?" I froze. "Remember what?" I whispered, no answer. Only that hum again, rising and falling like breathing. I looked in the mirror, and there she was, sitting in the back seat, her wet hair hanging in her face, her hands folded neatly on her lap. Her lips were pale blue, her eyes half open, lifeless yet aware. I couldn't move, couldn't speak. She tilted her head slightly. "You said you'd come back," she whispered. "You promised." The sound of her voice made something click in the back of my mind. A memory I hadn't thought about in years, an old summer night, the smell of rain, headlights reflecting in puddles, and laughter. Her laughter. Oh God, I remembered her. We'd been driving this same road. I was 19. She was my girlfriend back then, Anna. We'd fought that night. I'd wanted to leave town, she wanted to stay. It was raining just like this. She told me to stop the car, said she was getting out. I did. She slammed the door and walked off into the dark. I thought she'd cool off, thought I'd see her tomorrow. She never came home. They said she must have been hit by another car, maybe fell asleep on the road. But I never came back to look for her. Not once until tonight. Tears blurred my vision. "Anna," I whispered, my voice shaking. "I didn't know. I didn't." Her reflection shifted in the mirror. Her head tilted lower, her hair parting just enough for me to see her eyes. They were empty. Not angry, just hollow. "You left me here." The car jerked violently. The steering wheel spun out of my hands as the headlights flickered. I slammed the brakes, but the pedal sank uselessly to the floor. The world outside blurred into streaks of light and rain. "Anna, please." She leaned forward slowly, her cold hand resting on my shoulder. The chill seeped through my jacket like ice. "Stay," she whispered. The car crashed. Metal screamed. Glass exploded. My head slammed against the wheel, and for a second everything went white. When I opened my eyes, the rain had stopped. The road was quiet. The car was mangled against the guardrail, steam rising from the hood. My head throbbed, blood running down my cheek, but somehow I was okay, breathing, awake. The passenger seat was empty again. The white ribbon was gone. I stumbled out of the wreck, coughing, the smell of gasoline thick in the air. My phone still had no signal. I tried waving down the road, but there were no lights. No other cars, only silence. Then I saw the sign again, about 20 feet ahead. Route 47, County Line, 12 miles. I laughed, half sob, half scream. I fell to my knees in the wet dirt.
No, no, no.
Lightning flashed, and in that brief burst of light I saw something that froze the blood in my veins. 2 cars. Both wrecked. Both in the same spot. One was mine. The other was rusted, older, half-buried. Anna's. I walked closer, trembling. Through the shattered window of her old car, I could see her skeleton still in the driver's seat, just as I'd seen before. Except now there were 2 sets of remains, a second figure. In the passenger seat, wearing my jacket, I stumbled back, my vision spinning. The air grew colder, thicker, until I could see my breath forming clouds. Then, from somewhere behind me, came her voice one last time. Soft, gentle, almost loving. "You didn't leave me this time." I turned around, and she was standing in the middle of the road again, her dress glowing faintly in the moonlight, her face calm now. She smiled once. Then the headlights of another car appeared in the distance, cutting through the mist. A horn blared. I tried to shout, to wave, but my body wouldn't move. The light swallowed everything. They found the crash site a week later. 2 cars, one from 1999, one from last night, fused together in the same spot. 2 sets of bodies in the wreckage. Locals say if you drive down Route 47 after midnight, you'll see them sometimes. A young couple standing side by side in the rain, waiting for someone who never stops. The girl on Route 47. It wasn't her haunting me. It was me haunting her. The first time I saw him, I thought it was just exhaustion playing tricks on me. It was 2:47 a.m., the dead hour, and I was halfway through a 6-hour drive home from a night shift. My eyes burned from staring at the empty highway too long, and the only light came from the yellow glow of my dashboard. I'd driven this route hundreds of times before. I knew every curve, every faded billboard, every dip in the road. But that night the air felt different, heavier, like something was riding along with me. The sound of the tires against the wet asphalt had a rhythm to it. Thump, thump. Thump, thump, almost like a heartbeat. The heater made a low whine. The road ahead stretched endlessly into darkness. I hadn't passed another car in almost 30 minutes. That's when I caught the movement. In the rearview mirror. It was quick, just a flicker, like someone shifting in the back seat. I jerked my eyes up, staring into the reflection. Nothing. The back seat was empty. Just my duffel bag, half open, and a fast food wrapper I'd tossed back there earlier. Still, something about it made my stomach knot. I told myself I was just tired. Rolled down the window for some air, let the freezing wind slap me awake. The smell of wet asphalt and pine trees rushed in. For a minute it worked. I felt more alert. But when I rolled the window back up, I noticed something in the corner of my mirror again. A shadow. Not a shape exactly. More like the absence of light. It moved slowly like someone leaning forward from the back seat just out of sight. "Okay," I muttered under my breath. "You're losing it. You need coffee." There was a gas station about 10 miles ahead, I remembered. A 24-hour one with bright lights and old vending machines. If I could just make it there, maybe I could reset my brain, but the longer I drove, the more that shadow seemed to breathe. Every few seconds I'd glance up, and it would shift faintly like it was adjusting its posture. Then I noticed something that made my chest tighten. The temperature inside the car was dropping. I hadn't touched the AC, but I could see my breath forming in small misty clouds. The windshield started to fog slightly, even though the defroster was on. And that smell, it came so suddenly I gagged, like iron and old water. Rust. No, blood. I reached up to rub the glass with my sleeve, and that's when I saw it. A handprint on the inside of the back window. I froze. My foot lifted from the gas pedal, the car coasting. The print was faint, pressed against the foggy glass, and long fingers slightly smeared. I didn't move. Didn't breathe. Then slowly, another print appeared beside it. Smaller, fresher, like someone was pressing their hand there right now. I looked up into the rear view again, and this time, I saw him, just for a second, before the next curve in the road took me into darkness again. A face. Pale, expressionless, eyes wide open, sitting directly behind me. When the road straightened, he was gone. But the seatbelt in the back was still swinging. I don't know how long I sat in that gas station parking lot, staring at the reflection of my own terrified eyes in the rearview mirror. The attendant's words kept replaying in my head. "Don't look behind you when you drive." He had said it in a flat, shaky tone, like he'd already seen something he didn't want to talk about. But what was I supposed to do with that? It sounded like nonsense, some creepy local joke. Still, my hands trembled as I twisted the key. The engine coughed, headlights cutting through the black nothingness ahead. I glanced one last time at the gas station's flickering sign, the word "open" sputtering like a dying heartbeat, before pulling back onto Route 9. The road was silent again. The hum of the tires, the engine's low growl, and the rhythmic slap of the wipers against the windshield filled the air. A thin drizzle had started while I was parked, the kind that makes the road slick but doesn't quite justify stopping. I told myself I was fine, that the attendant was just another backwoods creep trying to scare travelers. Then I saw it again, not directly, not clearly, just movement in the rearview mirror, a faint shifting shape in the back seat, gone the moment my eyes focused. I froze, gripping the steering wheel tighter, knuckles white. It's the rain. The light. Just your imagination. But the longer I stared, the harder my heart pounded. Something about that darkness in the back seat felt wrong. It wasn't just empty space, it felt heavy, like the air itself was bending around something that wasn't supposed to be there. I switched on the cabin light. Nothing. The back seat was empty, my duffel bag, my jacket, a crumpled water bottle. That's it. I laughed, a shaky, hollow sound, and turned the light off again. The next few miles were torture. The road wound between black hills and skeletal trees, their branches swaying in the wind like arms reaching out. Every few seconds I glanced at the mirror, nothing there. Then when I forced myself to stop looking, I could feel it, that same weight in the air, watching, breathing. By the time I hit the old bridge over the river, my nerves were shredded. The rain came harder now, thundering against the roof. My headlights cut through a curtain of water, and the bridge's rusted beams loomed like prison bars. That's when the radio came on. Not music. Not static. Just a soft hiss, then a faint whisper. "Don't look." I slammed the volume knob off, heart hammering. I hadn't touched it. I hadn't even been using it the whole trip. The rain drowned out everything else, but my skin crawled with goosebumps. My chest felt tight, and I started to shake, half from fear, half from the freezing air that suddenly filled the car. I looked down at the dashboard and froze. The rear defroster light was on. I hadn't turned it on, and on the fogged-up rear window, I saw it, a handprint pressed from inside. I swerved hard, the tires screaming against the wet road. The car fishtailed before I managed to pull it straight. The handprint faded as the glass cleared, but I had seen it. 5 long fingers smeared downward like something had dragged them slowly. I couldn't think, couldn't breathe. I just drove. Faster. Headlights flashing through the storm. the road blurring into tunnels of darkness and light. Every instinct screamed to look, to check if something was there. But the gas station attendant's voice echoed in my skull. "Don't look behind you when you drive." The voice from the radio, the whisper I'd heard. They'd said the same thing. Why? The road curved again. The bridge disappeared behind me. I was breathing fast, almost gasping. I turned off the wipers for a second to see if it would calm me. And that's when I noticed something that made my stomach drop. There were wet footprints on the dashboard, tiny puddles forming beneath each one. Bare feet. I almost screamed. My foot slammed the brake, but the car only skidded, fishtailing across the slick asphalt before regaining traction. My mind was breaking. None of this made sense. Footprints, inside, in front of me. I turned the heater on full blast, but the air that came out was freezing cold. I could see my own breath now, misting the air like I was outside in winter. I started whispering to myself, "Please God, please God, please." Over and over, and then slowly, something moved in the mirror again. Not a flicker, not a trick of light. A shape, tall, thin, hunched in the backseat. It looked like a man, but wrong. Too still, too dark. The outline barely visible against the shadows. My throat went dry. My eyes filled with tears. I didn't want to look, but I couldn't stop. Its head tilted, slow, unnatural, toward the side. As if it knew I could see it. The air in the car dropped to ice. My heart was pounding so loud I could barely hear the rain anymore. I pressed the gas, flooring it down the endless stretch of highway, and that's when I heard the sound that broke me. Breathing. Not mine. Not faint. Behind me. A deep, slow inhale, and a wet, rasping exhale. Tears streamed down my face as I clenched the wheel and screamed into the empty road. "What do you want from me?" The headlights flashed across another road sign. Black Hollow Cemetery, 2 miles. I didn't even remember that name on the map. I didn't care. I just kept driving. The whispers began again, not from the radio this time. From everywhere, filling the car, circling me, words I couldn't understand, layered over each other like 100 voices all whispering at once. Then, silence. Just my breathing. My heart. The rain. I dared one glance at the rearview mirror. Empty. I exhaled, sobbing, relief flooding through me. Then I noticed something, carved into the glass. "I'm not behind you anymore." I don't remember hitting the brakes. 1 second I was staring at those words carved into the rearview mirror. "I'm not behind you anymore." And the next, I was outside the car, standing in the rain, gasping for air. The world felt too still. The only sound was the hiss of the rain hitting the hood of my car, steaming slightly against the heat of the engine. The headlights cut through the darkness, illuminating the thin, cracked road ahead. But everything beyond that beam of light was just void. My fingers trembled as I reached for the door handle. I was shaking so hard I could barely grip it. The car door creaked open and warm air spilled out, but it wasn't comfort. It carried a smell. Damp. Rot. Like soil and old leaves after something dead had been buried there. My stomach twisted. I stepped back, wiping rain from my face, but the smell lingered. It was coming from inside the car. The duffel bag I'd tossed on the back seat earlier was gone. So was the jacket. But something else had taken their place. A long, wet smear, like someone had dragged a muddy hand across the seat. Finger marks were visible, 5 of them, deep, sharp enough that they'd torn the fabric open. I took a step back and nearly slipped in the mud. "This isn't real," I whispered to myself. I crashed. I'm dreaming. Something clicked behind me. A dry, deliberate sound. I spun around and the world went dead quiet. No wind, no rain. No sound from the trees. The headlights illuminated the edge of a road sign a few yards ahead, tilted and rusted, half covered by moss. Black Hollow Cemetery. An arrow pointed down a narrow dirt path off the main road. My heart sank. I wanted to leave. Every nerve screamed to get back in the car and floor it. But I couldn't. My keys weren't in my hand anymore. I checked my pockets. Nothing. I looked through the window. They weren't in the ignition either. Then I saw them, halfway down that dirt path. Lying in the mud and beside them, footprints, bare, human, facing toward me. Rain pounded harder. I told myself it wasn't real. I told myself I could just run, forget the keys, forget the car, forget everything. But I didn't. I stepped forward once, twice. My boots sank into the soft ground. Every shadow looked alive. Every tree seemed to breathe. The smell got worse the closer I got. The rot now mixed with something metallic like blood. I reached down, my fingers shaking violently as I grabbed the keys from the mud. And then from the corner of my eye, movement. A figure stood just beyond the reach of the headlights, tall, lean, shoulders hunched, head tilted sideways. It wasn't walking. It was swaying slightly back and forth like it was listening. "Hey," I yelled, my voice cracking. No answer. I stepped backward. My boots splashed. The figure didn't move. But the moment I looked away, even for half a second, the sound changed. The soft, wet slap of bare feet moving closer. I turned back. It was gone. The rain intensified, drowning everything in static. I bolted to the car, fumbling with the handle. My fingers slipped on the metal, slick with water. I got in, slammed the door, hit the lock. Silence. My chest heaved as I jammed the key into the ignition, then click. Click, nothing, again, nothing. Come on. Come on. On the third try, the engine roared to life. Relief hit like a wave. I threw it in drive and floored it. Tires spinning, spraying mud everywhere. The headlights caught something in front of me, something standing in the middle of the road. The same figure. Closer now, I didn't stop. I couldn't. The car slammed through it like smoke, like fog. The cold hit me like a wall, crawling through every vein, freezing me from the inside out. And then I saw it again, not outside this time. Behind me in the mirror, sitting in the back seat. Its face was clearer now, pale, drowned-looking, eyes like two hollow pits dripping water down its cheeks. Its mouth hung open too wide, and like its jaw had unhinged. I couldn't look away. It leaned forward, closer, and for a brief, horrifying second, its reflection, not its body, just its reflection, reached out of the mirror. Fingers pressing against the glass from the inside. The surface cracked, spiderwebbing outward. I screamed, slamming my fist into the mirror, always shattering it completely. The car veered onto the shoulder, bouncing violently before skidding to a stop. The air went still again. When I opened my eyes, the mirror was gone. Just shards across the dashboard. My breathing was so fast I was choking, and then, knock, knock, 2 slow taps on the window, my whole body locked. Another knock, harder. I turned, nothing there. Only the reflection of my own terrified face in the side glass. But then the reflection blinked, and I didn't. It was smiling. A low voice crawled out of the air vents, soft, soaked in static. "Don't look. Behind you." My hands trembled as I reached for the door handle. I didn't even know why. I just needed to get out. I flung the door open and stumbled into the rain again. The headlights flickered once, then died. Darkness swallowed everything. Somewhere in the black, a faint splash of water echoed, like someone taking slow, heavy steps toward me. "Please," I whispered, tears mixing with the rain. "Please stop." The steps stopped, and then a whisper right behind my ear. "I told you not to look." I turned anyway. There was nothing there. Nothing human, at least. Just 2 wet handprints, fresh and dripping on my chest, and then I woke up, but I wasn't in my bed. I was sitting in my car. The engine was cold. Dawn light filtered through the windshield. My clothes were soaked. The road sign was still there. Black Hollow Cemetery. The back seat was empty, except for one thing, a cracked rearview mirror. Lying on the passenger seat and carved into its surface, and as if by fingernails, were the words, "You looked." The morning light should have made me feel safe. It didn't, it just exposed how wrong everything was. The air was still heavy and cold. My breath fogged up the windshield even though the sun was already creeping over the trees. The world felt colorless, drained like the night had taken something out of it. Out of me. I stared at the cracked mirror on the passenger seat. The words, "You looked," seemed to shimmer in the daylight. The edges of the letters were sharp, carved deep, almost like they were still fresh. I didn't want to touch it, but part of me needed to. The second my fingers brushed the glass, I flinched. It was freezing cold. Not just cold from the night air, but wrongly cold, like something that hadn't seen light in a long, long time. For a few seconds, nothing happened. Then as I looked up at the windshield, I saw her, a reflection that wasn't mine. She was sitting in the back seat, head tilted down, dark wet hair hanging over her face. Her skin was grayish, stretched tight, lips slightly parted. The fog on the glass distorted her shape. She looked like she was underwater. I didn't move, didn't breathe. The reflection didn't move either. But when I blinked, she was gone. Only one thing remained on the fogged glass, the faint outline of a face, pressed from the inside. I started the engine, needing to leave that place more than I'd ever needed anything. The car coughed to life, but the dashboard lights flickered like they were glitching. The gas gauge jumped between full and empty. The radio turned on by itself, whispering static, just faint enough that it almost sounded like words. I backed out onto the road, refusing to look at the rearview mount. The mirror wasn't even there anymore. It had fallen during the night. But even without it, I could feel the weight of that empty space, that hollow stare behind me. Every few seconds, I'd glance into the blank mount out of reflex. My brain kept expecting to see something. A flicker of movement. A shadow. But there was nothing. For 20 minutes, I drove in silence. No music, no noise except the tires rolling over the wet asphalt. The world outside looked washed out by fog, like I was driving through a dream that refused to end. Then, the smell returned. Faint at first, that same mixture of rot and iron, then stronger, creeping through the vents until it coated the air. I gagged, rolled down the window, and that's when I saw it again. The sign Black Hollow Cemetery. Except this time the arrow was pointing behind me, the road I'd just come from. I slammed the brakes. My chest hit the steering wheel. My hands went numb. No, that wasn't possible. I'd been driving away from that turn. There was no way I'd circled back. The road was straight for miles. I stared at the trees, trying to steady my breathing. Then the car engine cut out. Dead silent. The radio crackled again. Only one sound came through. A woman's voice, soft, wet. "You left me there." The blood drained from my face. "Who are you?" I said aloud, even though I knew I wouldn't get a real answer. But the voice came again, distorted but clear enough to chill me to the core. "You looked. You remembered." The fog outside thickened until I couldn't see the trees anymore. I gripped the steering wheel like it was the only thing keeping me tethered to reality. Then, from the corner of my eye, movement. In the mirror mount. It was faint, but I saw it. A reflection where there should have been none. A single eye. Staring back, I jerked around, nothing in the back seat, turned forward, and froze. She was standing in the middle of the road, barefoot, soaked. Her head hung low, black hair matted against her face. Her arms dangled unnaturally, and as I watched, one of them twitched, bending in a way that no joint should. The voice came again, but now it wasn't through the radio. It came from her mouth. "You shouldn't have looked." She took a step forward. The wet slapping sound echoed through the silence. Another step. And another. I hit the locks on instinct. The doors clicked, but I knew, deep down, it wouldn't matter. She was almost at the hood now, her face still hidden behind that curtain of hair. The water dripping from her fingers hit the metal with faint ticks, like the sound of a clock counting down. Then she lifted her head. Her face was swollen, blue-tinted, eyes clouded and glassy. Her lips peeled back into something like a grin, but her skin tore at the corners when she did it. Water poured from her mouth as she whispered, "You drive my road now." My body moved before my brain could catch up. I slammed the accelerator. The car roared forward but she didn't move. I went straight through her and suddenly everything changed. The road wasn't the same, the trees were gone. The signs were gone. The sky turned dark, even though it had been morning just seconds ago. The headlights only showed endless black road ahead, no landmarks, no turns, no end. I screamed. I drove faster, 60, 80, 100. But the road didn't stop. Every time I blinked, the reflection in the windshield showed her face, closer and closer, sometimes in the back seat, sometimes in the passenger seat, sometimes right next to me. Whispers filled the car, overlapping voices, male, female, some crying, some laughing, all saying the same thing again and again. "You looked. You remembered. You drive my road now." I turned the wheel hard to the right. Nothing. The car didn't turn. The steering felt locked. I looked down at my hands and they weren't even gripping the wheel anymore. They were pale, wet, my fingernails torn. The reflection on the windshield wasn't me anymore. I don't know how long I've been driving. The clock on the dashboard hasn't changed in hours. It still says 2:47 a.m. Sometimes I see other cars in the distance. I flash my lights, I honk. No one ever stops. Sometimes I catch glimpses of faces in my side mirrors, people I've never seen before watching me from the dark. And sometimes I see her sitting in the passenger seat smiling faintly, whispering the same words. You shouldn't have looked. If anyone finds this recording, if anyone ever drives Route 47 past Black Hollow, don't stop. Don't look in your rearview. Don't try to help, because once you see her face, you'll drive her road too forever. The moment I saw the gas station, I knew something was wrong. It was pitch black outside except for the flickering neon sign. Half the letters burned out, leaving only gas TN barely glowing. I'd been driving for hours, the empty highway stretching for miles in every direction, and my fuel gauge was hovering near empty. Rain drizzled down in lazy streaks, smearing the road into shiny black ribbons. My windshield wipers were chattering like broken teeth, the smell of wet asphalt mixed with the faint stench of something rotting. I couldn't tell if it was outside or inside the car. I slowed, debating whether I should just drive past. Something about the station felt off, empty, not a single car in the lot. The pumps were old, rusted. One of them leaked fluid onto the concrete. A faint red shimmer, but I didn't want to look too closely. Still, I had no choice. I pulled in, the tires splashing through puddles. The engine ticked as it cooled. I grabbed my phone, nothing. No signal, great, just me, a broken neon sign, and the last gas station before dawn. I stepped out. The air hit me like ice water. It smelled like metal and wet dirt, like a grave that had been dug last week. I rubbed my arms, shivering. The station looked abandoned, but the light inside flickered on and off. A single fluorescent tube buzzed overhead, casting long shadows. Then I heard it, the faint creak of a door. I froze. My heartbeat thundered in my ears. Hello? I called, no answer. Just the buzz of the light and the slap of rain on the roof. Something told me to leave. My gut screamed. But I was almost out of gas and I didn't have a choice. I walked to the door. The bell above it jingled weakly. Inside, the store was dim. Shelves were stocked with old snack packages, dusty soda bottles, a few dented cans. Nothing unusual at first glance, but then I noticed the floor. Wet footprints. Bare footprints, leading from the back storage room to the counter. They were small, like a woman's or a child's, but smeared with mud and something dark I didn't want to identify. I froze. The place was supposed to be empty. A voice called from the back. Can I help you? It was soft, slow, like someone dragging the words out. I stepped toward the counter and the man, or whatever it was, appeared. I didn't see him at first. Just a tall shadow hunched. He had no face in the light, just darkness where his features should be. I swallowed hard. Yeah, gas, pump 3. He didn't answer. Just pointed toward the door. Slowly, deliberately. I nodded, trying to act normal, and ran to the pump. The nozzle felt heavier than it should. When I squeezed the handle, the gas gurgled like it was struggling to flow. I glanced back at the store. The shadow was gone. I shook my head. Too tired, too scared. Just nerves. I tried to focus on the task, filling my tank, but the sound behind me made me spin around. Footsteps. Slow, dragging. Not on the wet asphalt, but inside the car lot. No one was there. I turned back to the pump. The nozzle was dripping. Dark liquid, not gas. Something thicker, darker. My stomach twisted, then I heard it again, voice soft, almost a whisper. Don't leave yet. I whipped around. Empty lot. Empty station. Rain falling harder. My heart was in my throat. I wanted to scream, but my mouth wouldn't form the words, and then I saw her, standing at the edge of the light, barely visible. A young woman, soaked, her hair plastered to her face, eyes wide, lips pale. She wasn't moving, just staring at me. I froze. She tilted her head slowly, like she knew something I didn't. I took a step back. She moved. Not walking, sliding. Across the wet asphalt. Silent, smooth, I ran. I jumped in my car, slammed the door, turned the key. The engine caught, but the headlights barely illuminated her. She was gone. Or maybe I was too scared to see clearly. I floored it down the highway, rain streaking my windshield. My hand shook so hard I could barely steer. I glanced in the rearview mirror. Empty lot. Flickering sign, no one behind me, and then, on the wet road just a few hundred yards behind, I saw her reflection in the headlights, standing in the middle of the lane, watching me. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Her reflection, faint and distorted in the wet asphalt, followed me as I drove. I slammed my foot on the accelerator, tires screaming over the slick pavement. The rain blurred everything into a black and white nightmare. The trees along the road stretching like claws, the horizon disappearing into fog. I kept glancing at the rearview mirror, half expecting to see her somehow inside the car. My stomach twisted every time I checked but it was empty. No one there. Just me, and the oppressive darkness closing in from every direction. Then the sound started. Footsteps. Not in the puddles behind me, not slapping against the wet asphalt, but inside the car. Soft, deliberate, dragging steps from the back seat. I froze, hands clutching the steering wheel, knuckles white. "Stop it," I whispered. My own voice sounded absurd in the car. The footsteps continued, slowly, patiently. I slammed on the brakes, heart hammering. The car skidded slightly in the rain, water spraying off the tires. I turned around and nothing. Empty back seat. No sound. I told myself it was exhaustion. I was hallucinating. A combination of night driving, rain, and too much caffeine. Then I felt it. A cold press against my shoulder. Bare, wet fingers. I jerked forward, almost hitting the steering wheel. My vision blurred, chest heaving. I couldn't breathe. I wanted to scream, but the sound stuck in my throat. I slammed on the gas and drove faster, weaving through the bends in the road. Every shadow along the roadside seemed to flicker with movement. Every puddle reflected her face for a split second before disappearing into the night. Then the headlights caught her. Not in the road this time. On the shoulder, half hidden in the trees. She stood perfectly still, watching me, soaked through, hair matted, eyes wide and unblinking. But when I blinked, she was gone. I gasped, my hand shaking so violently I could barely hold the wheel. I checked the rearview mirror again, still empty. Still empty. I slammed on the brakes again, skidding to a stop. My chest heaved. The rain pelted down harder now, blinding me through the windshield. I told myself to calm down, rationalize it, just get somewhere safe. I spotted a turnout ahead, a small pull-off, gravel crunching under my tires. I slammed the car into park and tried to catch my breath. My phone still had no signal. That's when I heard the faintest sound of laughter. Not loud, not musical. Just a dry, wet chuckle from the trees on the side of the road. I spun toward the sound. Nothing. Only rain and darkness. I opened the car door, needing to see, to move, to confirm I wasn't losing my mind. The air hit me like ice, damp, heavy with that rotten metallic smell again. Then I saw footprints. Bare, wet footprints leading from the tree line to the car. Not small, large, and deep. The gravel was pressed down like someone had been dragging their weight. Dragging themselves forward, I stumbled backward, slammed the door, locked it. The engine coughed once when I tried to start it and then roared to life. I drove, miles past. The road twisted, endless blackness around me. Every time I glanced in the mirrors, I saw her, fleeting. Sometimes in the back seat, sometimes reflected in the headlights standing just beyond the reach of light. Every time I floored it, trying to outrun her, but she was always there. Then came the whispers. Soft at first. Words I couldn't catch. Then slowly clearer. "Why did you leave me?" My blood ran cold. My foot slipped from the gas pedal. I glanced at the rear view, empty, no one. Just me, the rain, and the road stretching into infinity. I slammed my eyes shut for a second, told myself to keep moving. When I opened them, she was sitting in the back seat, close. Her hand on the edge of the passenger seat. Pale, wet, dripping water. I screamed. The car veered dangerously on the slick asphalt. I had to swerve to avoid a tree. Heart pounding, vision blurred. I looked for somewhere to stop. Any sign of life, any other car, even a building. But the road was empty. Trees closed in from both sides. Mist rose from the wet asphalt like smoke, twisting in shapes that looked like hands, faces reaching for me. Then, the radio turned on. Static. First faint, then louder. Then a voice, wet and raspy, coming from every speaker at once. Don't leave. Don't leave me behind. The car's lights flickered. My foot hit the accelerator instinctively. The wipers couldn't keep up with the rain. My own reflection in the rearview blurred, doubled, tripled. I saw her face overlapping mine, pale and waterlogged, lips moving, whispering. I slammed my eyes shut. When I opened them, there was a turn in the road, a bridge. A small cemetery I didn't remember seeing on the map. A crooked sign, Black Hollow Cemetery. The headlights barely illuminated the wrought iron gate, twisted and black, hanging off one hinge. And she was there, standing in the middle of the road, not moving, not blinking, just watching. I slammed the brakes. The car slid, tires squealing. My chest felt like it would burst. I looked in the mirrors again. She was inside the car, leaning against the back seat, water dripping onto the floor, smiling. I tried to put the car in reverse, floor it, anything, but it wouldn't move. The engine stalled. I was trapped. The car sat dead on the slick road, engine silent, wipers frozen mid-swipe. I pounded the steering wheel, screamed into the night, but nothing changed. The rain pelted the roof like a drum of ice. I tried to breathe, tried to rationalize it. It's exhaustion, hallucinations, just your mind playing tricks. Then I heard it, a soft, wet tap. Tap, tap on the roof of the car. I froze. My chest locked. My eyes darted to the mirrors, backside, all empty. But the sound persisted, slow and deliberate. Each tap matched my heartbeat. I unbuckled my seatbelt, flinging the door open despite the rain. Cold air slammed into me. I could barely see the road ahead, fog curling like smoke. The cemetery loomed, crooked gate swinging gently in the wind, faint gravestones barely visible through the mist, and she was there. Standing between the trees and the gate, hair plastered to her face, head tilted unnaturally. She didn't move and just stared. But I felt her eyes on me, piercing, patient. I stumbled backward. The mud sucked at my boots. My hands shook so violently I could barely grip the door. Then a voice, low, wet, rasping, whispered through the trees. "You shouldn't have left me." My heart stopped. I wanted to run, but my legs wouldn't move. The ground felt sticky beneath my feet, almost pulling me toward her. I reached for the car door. The handle was gone. I screamed. Then I noticed footprints, fresh, wet, bare, leading from the tree line to the front of my car. And more inside the car. I looked in the rear view. She was sitting in the back seat now, closer than before, grinning. Her fingers dragged along the edge of the leather seat. Wet. Cold. I spun around to look at the cemetery, desperate for escape. That's when I saw them. Other figures. Shadowy, pale, wet silhouettes emerging from the gravestones, their heads tilting in unnatural ways, eyes hollow. Some didn't have faces at all. They didn't walk. They glided, scraping the ground. I realized then I hadn't just found one. I had stumbled into a gathering. The whispers grew louder, layering over each other. "You looked. You remembered. You drive our road now." I ran to the passenger side. The handle reappeared. I flung it open, jumped in, slammed the door, and locked it. Engine roared to life as if awakened by my fear. I hit the gas, but the road didn't respond. The tires spun uselessly in mud that wasn't there before. The cemetery seemed to have swallowed the asphalt. Trees and gravestones surrounded me on all sides, bending toward the car like they were alive. I tried to reverse. Nothing. And then I saw her in the windshield. Not the reflection this time. She was on the hood. Her wet fingers pressed into the metal. She grinned. Water poured from her mouth as she whispered, "You drive my road." I screamed, slamming my eyes shut, pounding the wheel. When I opened them, she was gone. Only the other figures remained. Dozens of them stepping out from the fog, swaying, whispering. The radio turned on again. Static. Then a chorus of voices. "You shouldn't have looked. You shouldn't have left. You drive our road now." I tried to escape the car, threw it in gear, slammed it in reverse, floored the accelerator. The road stretched endlessly, twisting impossibly. Gravestones appeared closer, then farther, like the world was folding in on itself. Every glance in the mirrors, side, rear view, showed her face, closer, dripping water, smiling. The others followed, always behind, always watching. My breathing was ragged, tears blinding my eyes. I hit the horn repeatedly, desperate for help, but no one answered. Not a single other car, not a single sound except their whispers. Then she leaned through the open window, wet hair clinging to her face. Her mouth stretched impossibly wide. A guttural, wet laugh filled the car. You remembered. You looked. Now you belong. The world tilted. My vision blurred. Gravity seemed wrong. The cemetery, the road, the fog, it all spun around me. I screamed, pounding the wheel, trying to wake up from this nightmare. Then silence. Absolute, suffocating silence. I opened my eyes. My hands were on the wheel, heart pounding. The car idled quietly. The road ahead looked normal, wet asphalt stretching into the distance. Trees swayed gently in the morning wind, but something wasn't right. I glanced in the rearview mirror. Empty. Empty. And then I noticed the cracked reflection in the side mirror. Her face, faint but unmistakable, staring back at me, grinning, and etched into the glass as if carved by fingernails. You belong. I drove on, hands white-knuckled, gripping the wheel so hard it hurt. Every shadow along the roadside seemed alive, stretching closer as the dawn light tried to pierce the fog. But the closer the sun got to rising, the heavier the air felt, like it was pressing down on me, suffocating me in my own car. I kept glancing at the mirrors. Her face was never in the back seat anymore. Always in the mirrors, the rear view, side mirrors, anywhere reflective. And each time she smiled. Wide, wet, impossible, I tried rationalizing it. It's just exhaustion, a hallucination. But the whispers never stopped. Low, wet, overlapping voices repeating the same words. You looked. You remembered. You drive our road now. I realized then I couldn't leave. No matter how fast I drove, no matter how far, I was trapped. Miles blurred into nothing. Hours, days? I had no sense of time. The road twisted impossibly, folding back on itself. Gravestones appeared, then disappeared. Trees bent unnaturally. Every time I slowed, I saw her closer. Every time I sped up, she didn't fall behind. She was inside the car now. A faint outline pressed against the passenger window, grinning, dripping water. I tried to swerve off the road. Gravel crunched under the tires, but the road kept bending. No matter where I went, the asphalt stretched endlessly, swallowing me in fog and shadow. Then I noticed the smell. Rot. Wet earth. Blood. Iron. And something else. Metallic. Chemical. Like rusted machinery mixed with decay. It was thick in the car now. Every breath I took filled my lungs with it. My stomach turned. I slammed the brakes, throwing myself forward. When I looked up, I was at the cemetery again. Black hollow. Not the same turn from before. A different section, twisted and sprawling. Gravestones leaned at impossible angles. Rusted gates twisted like writhing metal. The ground seemed to move slightly under the mist, and she was there, standing in the middle of the road staring, waiting. I screamed, tried the doors. Locked. Engine dead, the mirrors. All showing her face, all grinning, overlapping with dozens of shadowy figures emerging from the fog. I realized then what she wanted. She didn't just want to scare me. She wanted me to stay, to be part of the road, part of the cemetery, part of the endless night that never ended. I hit the horn. Loud, deafening. It made no sound except a distorted echo in my ears. The figures around the car began to sway, tilting unnaturally, stretching their limbs, faces cracking, mouths open in silent screams that didn't echo but filled the air with unbearable pressure. Then she leaned through the window, closer than possible. Her fingers scraped along my arm, leaving cold, wet streaks, etching deep into my skin without cutting. She whispered, "You belong here. You drive my road forever." I tried to close my eyes, to will myself awake, to will myself anywhere else. But when I opened them, the fog had swallowed everything except the endless black road ahead, the crooked tombstones, and the wet, grinning face in every mirror. The whispers layered on top of each other now. Hundreds of voices, all wet, all whispering, all overlapping. You shouldn't have looked. You shouldn't have left. You drive our road now. I tried to move the car, nothing. The accelerator pressed, the brake pressed, gears shifted. All useless. My hands trembled, heart pounding, tears blurring my vision, and then I noticed it. The rearview mirror, cracked and broken, had reappeared, hanging from the mount, and carved into it, deep and jagged, you looked. You drive my road. I realized the truth too late. The road wasn't just haunted. The road was alive, and now so was I. I screamed, pounding the steering wheel until my fists bled and everything around me dissolved into black. The whispers became louder, closer until they were inside my skull. I haven't stopped driving. I don't know how long it's been. Sometimes I catch glimpses of other cars in the distance, abandoned, empty, broken. I flash my lights, I honk. No one answers. Sometimes I see shadows in the mirrors. Sometimes she smiles from the passenger seat, wet hair dripping, eyes hollow. And every time I hear it, you shouldn't have looked. You drive my road now. I am driving, forever, and the road never ends.